The Nevada desert shimmered under a merciless sun, heat waves dancing across the horizon like restless ghosts. Fort Irwin's long-range weapons testing facility stretched before them, a strip of scorched earth carved into the Mojave, where America's finest marksmen came to test their mettle against distance and physics. Colonel James Reynolds stood atop the observation platform, binoculars hanging heavy around his neck. At 65, his frame remained solid as oak, though time had etched deep lines around eyes that had seen more war than peace. His weathered hands, steady through 3 conflicts, gripped the railing as he surveyed the firing line. 11 of the nation's elite snipers lay prone along the ridge. Marines, SEALs, Green Berets, men who had earned their place in that rarefied fraternity where life and death balanced on a trigger's breath. Today, they faced a challenge beyond most human capability, engaging a target at 3,800 meters over 2 miles away with the new Barrett XM500 precision rifles. $25,000 of American engineering, Master Chief Victor Cole announced, patting the sleek weapon beside him. Chambered in, 50 BMG. Supposedly capable of putting a round through a man-sized target at ranges that defy conventional ballistics. Cole, at 42, carried himself with the swagger only 3 combat tours and 17 confirmed kills could bestow. His desert-tanned face bore the permanent squint of a man accustomed to staring through scopes at distant horizons. "Gentlemen," he called out, "your target is a 12 by 12-inch steel plate. Range, 3.8 kilometers. Wind is variable, 10 to 12 knots, northwest. Elevation, barometric pressure, and humidity have been calculated. Dope is written. Good hunting." The first shot cracked across the desert, the sound splitting the air like thunder. 4 seconds passed the time it took for the bullet to traverse the distance before a spotter called out, "Miss, 2 feet left." Another rifle roared, another miss. One by one, the elite marksmen took their shots. One by one, they failed. The steel plate, a mere speck in their scopes, remained untouched, mocking their skill with each passing minute. In the shade of a canvas awning, Captain Eleanor Ellie Mason stood silently, clipboard in hand. Her job was simple: document ammunition, expenditure, equipment performance, and environmental conditions for the quartermaster's office. Nothing more. Yet her eyes tracked each shooter with unusual intensity, her pencil marking not just bullet counts, but wind shifts invisible to most observers. When the 11th shot echoed across the range and the 11th miss was confirmed, Cole rose from his position and shook his head. "Physics wins today, gentlemen," he announced, removing his shooter's glasses. "That distance with these crosswinds? It's a mathematical impossibility in these conditions." His eyes swept the assembly, landing briefly on Captain Mason before he added with a smirk, "Any other snipers want to try? Or have we exhausted our talent pool?" Sergeant Frank Donovan, the range officer, noticed something others missed. Captain Mason's left thumb was tapping against her clipboard. 3 beats, pause, 3 beats. The rhythm of controlled breathing, the cadence of a shooter preparing to fire. Donovan had spent enough time in Afghanistan to recognize certain tells. He'd heard whispers about an elite unit call sign Ghost Snipers who operated beyond conventional military parameters. Shooters who could make shots nobody else would attempt. 7 of them, they said. Ghosts who appeared from nowhere, eliminated high-value targets at impossible ranges, and vanished without confirmation. Just rumors, of course, until now. Colonel Reynolds caught Donovan's eye, following his gaze to Captain Mason. Something passed between the men: recognition, perhaps anticipation. "Permission to try, sir?" Ellie's voice cut through the murmurs, steady and calm. The range fell silent. Cole turned, eyebrows raised in amused disbelief. "You, Captain? No offense, but you look more like my high school secretary than a long-range shooter." Laughter rippled through the group. Ellie didn't react, her expression remaining neutral as she set down her clipboard and stepped forward. "I've had some experience," she replied, the understatement hanging in the air between them. "By all means," Cole gestured toward the shooting bench with exaggerated courtesy. The boys could use some entertainment. Ellie moved to the bench with deliberate steps. No rush, no hesitation, just the measured pace of someone who had done this 1,000 times before. She removed her service cap, tucked it into her back pocket, and rolled her sleeves with precise folds to her elbows. The men watched, their amusement fading as she approached the rifle. Her hands moved with surgical precision, checking the chamber, inspecting the bolt face, running a finger along the barrel harmonics. She lifted a round from the ammunition box, holding it to the light, examining it with eyes that knew exactly what to look for. She rejected the first cartridge, selecting another after rotating it carefully between her fingers. "Sierra Match King projectile," she murmured, almost to herself. 2 grains off standard. Someone whispered, "How would she even know that?" Cole leaned against a support post, arms folded. "Cute. She's memorized the manual." Donovan caught Reynolds' eye again. The colonel gave an almost imperceptible nod. Ellie settled behind the rifle, adjusting the stock against her shoulder with familiar ease. Her body aligned with the weapon as if they were extensions of each other. Without consulting the range cards or ballistic computers, she spoke in a voice just loud enough to be heard. Temperature 94 Fahrenheit. Wind northwest 11 knots. Elevation 2 to 1,000, 1 to 100, 34 feet. Barometric pressure 30.12 inches. She made minute adjustments to the scope, her movements economical and precise. Cole whispered to his second in command, "Who does she think she is?" Reynolds remained silent, watching with the intensity of a man seeing a ghost. Ellie's breathing slowed, her body becoming utterly still. Through the scope, the distant steel plate wavered in the heat, mirage a dancing rectangle nearly invisible to the naked eye. Her finger found the trigger, resting there with familiar comfort. 1 heartbeat. 2, 3. She exhaled slowly, her body relaxing into the shot. The rifle roared, recoil driving into her shoulder. She absorbed it without flinching, her position unchanged. 4.2 seconds of silence followed the bullet, traveling its long arc through heat and wind, fighting gravity and distance. Then, faint but unmistakable across the desert, ping, the metallic ring of a perfect hit. Nobody moved, nobody spoke. The spotter, frozen at his scope, finally broke the silence. Center hit, dead center. Cole snatched the binoculars from the table, staring in disbelief at the distant target. The bullet hole was perfectly centered in the steel plate, a testament to something beyond luck or chance. Ellie calmly ejected the spent casing, engaged the safety, and stood. Her movements remained controlled, professional, betraying nothing of the extraordinary feat she'd just accomplished. Cole lowered the binoculars slowly, his expression unreadable. That was impossible. No. Reynolds spoke for the first time, his voice carrying the weight of authority and memory. Not impossible, just exceptionally rare. He stepped forward, his eyes never leaving Ellie's face. "Gentlemen, you've just witnessed one of the finest marksmen this country has ever produced." He paused, measuring his next words carefully. Captain Mason wasn't always a quartermaster officer. Ellie met his gaze, a silent communication passing between them. "Sir," she said quietly, "that's classified." "Not anymore," Reynolds replied. "Not after what happened to Richards, Carter, and Wilson." The atmosphere shifted, tension replacing disbelief. Cole looked between them, sensing something much deeper than a lucky shot. "Project Ghost," Reynolds continued, ignoring Ellie's warning glance. 7 operators selected for their exceptional marksmanship and psychological stability, trained for high-value target elimination at extreme ranges. Deployed from 2003 to 2016 across theaters where conventional forces couldn't operate. He nodded toward Ellie. Captain Mason, then Lieutenant Sarah Mitchell, was Ghost 7, 43 confirmed eliminations. Ranges that redefined what was considered possible. Cole stared at Ellie, reassessing everything about the woman he'd dismissed minutes earlier. Ghost 7, he repeated. The legendary call sign hanging in the air like smoke. The secure briefing room smelled of old coffee and gun oil. Reynolds unlocked a steel cabinet, removing a file marked classified eyes only. Its edges were worn from years of handling, the pages inside yellowed with age. "You should have warned me," Sarah said, sitting rigidly in the metal chair. "I left that name behind for a reason." Reynolds spread photographs across the table, surveillance images, personnel files, after-action reports. A life she'd tried to forget laid bare under fluorescent lights. "Virginia Tech, class of 2001, Reynolds said, his finger tapping a graduation photo. "Perfect marksmanship scores. Recruited straight into special operations training. You were a natural, Sarah. The best I ever saw." She stared at the images without touching them, as if they might burn her fingers. "That person doesn't exist anymore. I'm Ellie Mason now, logistics officer, not a killer." Reynolds sighed heavily, pushing another folder toward her newer, the top secret stamp, still vivid red. "Obsidian Protocol," he said. "Mean anything to you?" Sarah's expression didn't change, but something flickered behind her eyes. Recognition, dread. "Paul Barker," she said softly. "Former CIA Special Activities. Went private in 2015. Reynolds nodded grimly. "Went rogue is more accurate. He's built a network of former operatives. Mercenary work at first, now something worse." He laid out 3 photographs. 3 faces Sarah knew well. Michael Richards, Ghost 2, killed in Yemen 4 months ago. Sniper shot at 1,600 meters. Jennifer Carter, Ghost 4, Berlin, 2 months ago. David Wilson, Ghost 5, Johannesburg, 3 weeks ago. Sarah's knuckles widened as she gripped the edge of the table. All ghost operators. All made to look like accidents or local violence, Reynolds confirmed. But the ballistics tell a different story. Custom loads, specialized targeting, professional work. "Who else knows we're still alive?" Sarah asked, her voice hardening into something closer to the woman she once was. "Just me, Harris at Langley, and whoever's hunting you." Reynolds leaned forward. "We're next, Sarah. Me, you, and Tom Harris. We're all that's left of Ghost." Sarah stood abruptly, pacing the small room like a caged predator. "I got out for a reason, Colonel. Kandahar, 2016. We were compromised. Someone fed the opposition our position, our extraction plan. 4 operators dead." Her voice cracked slightly. "I held Marcus Young while he bled out. Know what his last words were? 'Stop shooting, Sarah. Just stop. Live your life.'" She turned to face Reynolds. "I made him a promise that day." Reynolds' expression softened momentarily. "I remember. You walked away. Changed your name. Buried Sarah Mitchell under paperwork and routine. And I've been sleeping through the night ever since," she replied, the lie obvious to both of them. "Someone betrayed Ghost," Reynolds said, returning to the files. "Someone with intimate knowledge of the program, the operators, the methodologies. They're finishing what started in Kandahar." Sarah stared at the photos of her fallen comrades, people who'd shared the burden of their terrible, necessary work. People who understood what it meant to live with the weight of precision death on their conscience. "I need to talk to Harris," she said finally. "Tonight." Her quarters were Spartan, a reflection of the woman she'd become, rather than the ghost she'd been. Sarah unlocked a footlocker hidden beneath her bed, its contents untouched for years. Inside lay a wooden box, worn smooth by handling. The box contained her past, a Purple Heart medal never publicly awarded, a weathered journal filled with calculations, distances, wind patterns, a photograph of 5 people in desert camouflage, faces obscured by tactical gear except for their eyes that had seen too much. She traced the figures with her fingertip. Richards, Carter, Wilson, Young, all gone now. Her secure phone buzzed a text from a number she hadn't seen in years. Meeting place compromised. Coffee shop 2 blocks north of Main Gate. 2,200 hours. Come alone. H. The coffee shop was nearly empty, the late hour keeping all but the most dedicated caffeine addicts away. Tom Harris sat in a corner booth, his back to the wall, eyes on the door. At 62, his hair had gone completely white, but his posture remained military straight, his gaze sharp as ever. "Sarah," he said simply as she slid into the seat across from him. "Been a long time." "Tom," she returned the greeting, studying the man who'd been their training officer, their handler, their conscience. "Still at Langley?" "Training division now." His smile was thin, teaching the next generation how not to get themselves killed. They sat in silence for a moment, each taking the measure of the other. Years had passed, but the connection remained the unspoken understanding that only those who had lived their particular hell could share. "Reynolds filled you in?" Harris asked finally. "3 dead. Professional hits disguised as random violence or accidents." She met his eyes directly. "We're next." Harris nodded, sliding a small evidence bag across the table. Inside was a bullet fragment, twisted and deformed. "Recovered from Wilson's scene. Johannesburg police missed it, but I have friends in their forensics department." His voice lowered. "It's a 7.62 millimeters round with a specialized tungsten polymer composite core. Experimental." Sarah's blood went cold. "Ghost rounds." "Specifically, the ones we tested in 2014 for extreme distance penetration through hardened targets." Harris leaned forward. "Only 7 people knew about those rounds, Sarah. They were never officially adopted, never manufactured beyond the test batch." "So our killer is one of us," she whispered, "or someone who had complete access to our program." Harris's expression darkened. "There's more. I've been tracing financial patterns connected to Barker's organization. Someone's been feeding them classified intelligence for years, since before Kandahar. The mole is still active," Sarah concluded, "still inside the system." And getting increasingly desperate, Harris agreed. "The timeline of eliminations is accelerating. They're cleaning house, Sarah, removing everyone who might identify them." Sarah stared at the bullet fragment, her mind racing through possibilities, connections, old suspicions never fully explored. "Reynolds," she said suddenly. "Where was he during Kandahar?" Harris's expression confirmed her suspicion before he spoke. "Running the operation from FOB Chapman. He had real-time access to all ghost communications, positions, extraction plans. And he's the one who called me back in," Sarah added, the pieces fitting together with terrible clarity. "He's gathering the remaining pieces on the board." "We need to be certain," Harris cautioned. "Reynolds has been above suspicion for 30 years. "So was Aldrich Ames," Sarah countered, referencing the infamous CIA traitor. "We need to flush him out, force his hand." Harris studied her face for a long moment. "You're thinking of using yourself as bait." "I'm thinking it's time Ghost 7 came out of retirement," she replied, her voice hardening into resolve. "One last mission." Dawn painted the firing range in shades of copper and gold, the desert awakening to another scorching day. Sarah, back in her Ellie Mason persona, assembled the dozen marksmen selected for advanced counter-sniper training. Master Chief Cole stood among them, his earlier smugness replaced by something approaching respect. Beside him were operators from across Special Forces branches, men chosen for both their skills and their discretion. "Yesterday," she began without preamble, "you witnessed a shot at extreme distance. Today, you'll learn why such shots matter and how they can save lives when conventional tactics fail." She paced before them, her manner transformed from the quiet logistics officer they'd previously dismissed. "Sniping isn't about killing," she continued. "It's about precision, control, patience. The difference between a good shooter and a great one isn't measured in target hits, it's measured in discipline." For the next 6 hours, she ran them through drills that had nothing to do with pulling triggers. Breath control exercises, meditation techniques that enhance focus, methods for calculating complex ballistics without computers or charts, the psychological training that separated ghost operators from conventional snipers. Cole approached her during a water break, his expression thoughtful. "I've been shooting for 20 years, he said quietly. "Never seen anyone teach like this." "Most instructors focus on the shot," she replied, adjusting the sight alignment on his rifle with expert hands. "I'm more concerned with the shooter." "I was wrong about you," Cole admitted, the words clearly difficult for him. What you did yesterday, I've never seen anything like it. She met his eyes briefly. In 15 years of training operators, have you ever wondered why some can make the impossible shots while others can't? It's not talent. It's not even practice. She tapped her temple. It's what happens here before the trigger breaks. As the day progressed, Sarah watched Reynolds observing from the command building, his binoculars trained on their activities. Harris's warning echoed in her mind. Trust no one. Verify everything. During the afternoon session, she introduced the counter-sniper exercise, a complex simulation where shooters would need to identify and neutralize an opposing force hidden in the terrain. The perfect opportunity to set her trap. Captain Mason, Reynolds approached as she finished briefing the team. A word, please. She followed him to a secluded position behind the firing line, aware of Harris moving into his predetermined observation post with a clear line of sight. You've impressed Cole's team, Reynolds remarked, surveying the desert. They're already calling you the ghost behind your back. Soldiers love their legends, she replied neutrally. Gives them something to aspire to. Reynolds nodded, his expression unreadable behind mirrored sunglasses. I've been thinking about Ghost, what we created, what we asked of you all. He paused. Sometimes I wonder if we crossed a line, turning exceptional soldiers into something else entirely. We did what was necessary, Sarah said, watching him carefully. Did we? Reynolds removed his glasses, his eyes searching hers. Or did we create something we couldn't control, something that needed to be contained? The air between them charged with unspoken accusations. Sarah maintained her neutral expression, though her senses had heightened to combat readiness. The exercise begins in 10 minutes, she said evenly. I should rejoin the team. Reynolds nodded, replacing his sunglasses. Of course, I'll observe from the command post. As Sarah turned to leave, Reynolds added casually, I spoke with Harris this morning. Interesting theories he has about our ghost problem. Sarah froze momentarily before continuing her stride, the confirmation she needed hidden in those carefully chosen words. Harris hadn't spoken to Reynolds in days. The trap was ready. Now she just needed the predator to commit. The counter-sniper exercise began at precisely 1,500 hours. 12 two-man teams spread across the training zone, their mission to locate and eliminate opposition forces hidden throughout the complex terrain. Sarah positioned herself at an elevated observation, post-exposed, visible, the perfect target for anyone watching. Through her binoculars, she tracked the team's movements, maintaining regular radio contact. In her earpiece, Harris provided updates from his concealed position. Reynolds has moved to the East Ridge, he reported. Outside the exercise boundary. He's alone. Copy, she responded, careful to maintain her cover as exercise controller. Team 3, adjust your position 20 meters west. You're exposed to Sector 5. The afternoon wore on, the sun beginning its descent toward the horizon. Sarah felt the weight of watchful eyes, the sensation familiar from her ghost operations. The hunter becoming the hunted. At 1,642, Harris's voice returned, tense with urgency. Movement on your 300 meters, armed individual approaching your position. Sarah didn't turn, continuing her observation of the exercise while tracking the approach through peripheral awareness. Identify? A pause. Reynolds, sidearm drawn, moving with purpose. Copy, she replied, maintaining her professional demeanor while calculating distances, cover options, response scenarios. Teams 4 and 6 converge on Objective Charlie. Prepare for final phase. She sensed, rather than heard, Reynolds' approach, the subtle shift of air, the almost imperceptible sound of controlled breathing. Military training imprinted on cellular memory. Impressive exercise design, Captain, Reynolds said, from 10 meters behind her. Your expertise shows. Sarah turned slowly, noting the 9mm Beretta held casually at Reynolds' side. Not pointed at her, not yet, but ready. Thank you, sir, she replied, allowing a careful measure of pride in her voice. The teams are performing well. Reynolds advanced, closing the distance between them. They're learning from the best. Go 7. He gestured toward the expanse of desert beyond them. You know, Project Ghost was never supposed to be permanent. It was a wartime necessity, extraordinary measures for extraordinary circumstances. Most black programs start that way, Sarah observed, tracking the subtle shifts in his posture, the micro-expressions that telegraphed intent. The problem with programs like Ghost, Reynolds continued, is they create weapons that can't be unmade. Operators who know too much, see too much. His grip on the pistol tightened slightly, become too effective. The pretense was evaporating between them. Sarah remained outwardly calm, her body coiled with potential energy. Paul Barker understood that, Reynolds added. He saw what we'd created, what I'd helped create, the monsters beneath the flags and citations. So you helped him eliminate the monsters, Sarah said, the final confirmation of her suspicions laid bare. Starting with Kandahar, my team. Reynolds didn't deny it. It was supposed to end there, clean, merciful, but you survived. Harris survived. The program files remained active, and Barker decided to finish the job, Sarah concluded, with your help. Reynolds raised the pistol now, pointing it directly at her center mass. The world doesn't need ghosts anymore, Sarah. It needs to heal from the wounds we inflicted in the name of freedom. You betrayed us, she said, her voice steady despite the rage building inside her. You sent my team to die. I sent soldiers to complete a mission, he corrected. The fact that you viewed them as family was your mistake, not mine. Attachments are liabilities in our business. Sarah's mind calculated trajectories, distances, reaction, times the mathematics of survival ingrained through years of training. Reynolds was 15 feet away, the pistol aimed at center mass. His stance betrayed military training, but not the muscle memory of a dedicated shooter. You're not a triggerman, she observed calmly. You give orders, you plan operations, you manipulate assets. But you don't pull triggers yourself. Her eyes locked with his. That's why you betrayed us. You couldn't bear the weight that we carried. Doubt flickered across Reynolds' features just for an instant. Sarah recognized the opening, the momentary vulnerability of a man confronting his own conscience. Ghost was a mistake, Reynolds insisted, the pistol wavering slightly. You were all mistakes. We were soldiers, Sarah corrected him. Following orders, your orders. She took a deliberate step forward, and now you're trying to erase the evidence of your decisions. Reynolds steadied his aim. Don't move. In that critical moment, a shot cracked across the ridge, not from Reynolds' weapon, but from a position far behind them. Reynolds jerked, eyes widening in shock as a red stain blossomed on his shoulder. The pistol dropped from his hand. Sarah moved with the fluid precision that had made her Ghost 7, securing the weapon and immobilizing Reynolds in one continuous motion. Through her earpiece, Harris's voice came clear and calm. Target neutralized, non-lethal as requested. Cole and his team appeared over the ridge, weapons trained on Reynolds. Their expressions revealed they had heard everything, the confession, the betrayal, the truth behind Ghost. Secure the prisoner, Sarah ordered, her voice betraying none of the emotional turmoil beneath her professional exterior. Medical team on standby. As Reynolds was led away, Cole approached Sarah, respect evident in his bearing. Ghost 7, he said quietly. It was real. You were real. Sarah looked out across the desert, the same landscape that had witnessed her extraordinary demonstration of skill just days earlier. The place where her past had finally caught up with her present. Not Ghost, she corrected him. Just a soldier who learned that some shots are taken not to end lives, but to save them. 6 months later, at Fort Benning's Advanced Marksmanship Training Facility, 24 students gathered for their final certification. Captain Eleanor Mason, her true identity, now part of a classified but acknowledged record, stood before them, her manner confident but humble. The difference between a shooter and a sniper, she told them, isn't measured in distance or kill count, it's measured in responsibility. Every round that leaves your barrel carries with it your judgment, your discipline, your humanity. Cole, now assigned as her co-instructor, watched from the back of the room. The veteran SEAL had become her strongest advocate, his former arrogance replaced by genuine respect. "Today you graduate," Sarah continued. "Tomorrow, some of you will deploy to places where your skills will be tested in ways that transcend targets and scoring rings. Remember this: you don't take shots to claim lives, you take them to protect those who cannot protect themselves." After the ceremony, Cole approached her with a small wooden box. "The team wanted you to have this," he said, offering it with uncharacteristic solemnity. Inside lay a custom-designed insignia, a ghost figure behind crosshairs, with 7 stars arranged in a constellation pattern. "For those who served in shadows," Cole explained, "and for those who bring their skills into the light." Sarah accepted the gift, her thoughts drifting to comrades lost and lessons learned at terrible cost. The desert wind seemed to whisper across the years, carrying echoes of rifles and promises. Some soldiers fought beneath spotlights and flags, their courage celebrated in parades and monuments. Others operated in darkness, their victories marked only by silence and absence. Yet all served the same flag, the same ideals of freedom. Sarah Mitchell had been a ghost. Eleanor Mason was a teacher. Between them stretched a journey measured not in kills, but in purpose, found and honor reclaimed. As she pinned the new insignia to her uniform, she felt the weight of her past balanced by the promise of her future, no longer defined by the shots she had taken, but by the lives she now helped to guide. In the distance, steel targets waited, silent sentinels against the horizon, and in the quiet between heartbeats, where perfect shots were born, Sarah found her peace at last.